Boston Celtics almost gave it away at the end, as is tradition, it seems, through the second half of this season, but they managed to pull out a much-needed victory against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Marcus Smart showed some signs of life, Jayson Tatum's shooting did not, and Jaylen Brown was crazy awesome yet again. All of that and more next on First to the Floor.
Who's going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives, way up on the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Joining us for this one, as he often does, Mr. Wade Spoony. Spoons, how you doing, sir?
I feel like that was the definition of a win is a win, so
yes.
I'm feeling good. Hey, look at the bright side. Glass half full. 3-4 in our last 4, right? Not so bad.
Not so bad.
3-1. Yeah.
It's crazy to say out loud.
And
of course,
yeah, sorry.
the man with the mistress, Jake Eisenberg. What's up, Jake? Welcome back.
Feeling good. Hotels are, plentiful with rooms this weekend. So with a back-to-back coming up, that's important on the road.
Absolutely. All right, look, we're going to talk some T-Wolves game. We're going to talk some trends, good and bad, heading into the playoffs. We're going to talk some Gallo. What? Yes, Gallo may be nearing a return and potentially the Time Lord as well. But first, the Celtics, they win 104-102 against those pesky Timberwolves. Jaylen Brown, 35 points, 10 boards, and 15 points in the fourth quarter. Jayson Tatum, less efficiently so, 22 points, 12 rebounds, but 14 of 16 from the free throw line. Spoony, main takeaways from this one.
Yeah, it was ugly, but I actually thought it was a really encouraging win in a lot of ways. I thought the defense finally looked good in a lot of ways. Anthony Edwards is unguardable when he's feeling it, and we blew a few switches. I think there was a couple times Edwards got to his pull-up 3 behind the pick and roll with Brogdon and Al defending it. And Brogdon thought they were going to switch, and Al thought they were in drop, and he kind of walked into a couple wide-open pull-up 3s. I think he was 4-4 on pull-up 3s to go into halftime. But other than that, man, I thought it was really crisp. And, Mazzulla was talking about the margins, it's his buzzword of the week. I thought they did a really good job collecting themselves after a disappointing win against Houston and bringing it against a good team, despite neither team could throw it in the ocean. I mean, that was like a college game at some points with how nobody could shoot. So, I overall, if they get that type of defensive performance and just energy level performance, and their shots start dropping, wow. I'm tired, man. It's March Madness. I've watched
been a weird season.
Basketball
It
today.
is March.
So, if the shots start falling again, I think they're going to be very difficult to beat. I think that was kind of. I hope this is sort of the beginning of the wave we see with them getting back to their best basketball.
Yeah, Jake.
They tried. That was awesome. How good was that? Like, it's almost as simple as Jayson Tatum defended really hard, but one of my favorite parts about Jayson Tatum's season has been his rebounding. Like, he's turned into like a legitimate power forward rebounder, and yesterday was a perfect example of him really like going after defensive rebounds. We did let a few offensive rebounds in late, but throughout the game, and that's when the shots aren't falling, that's what we love so much about Tatum, and why the advanced metrics love him so much is because of his all-around game and how that impacts winning. So when he's defending and when he's defensive rebounding, my theory is like the threes often go in when he's doing those things. Not the case.
Nope. Not
the case at all last night. But the fact they were able to win this game, the Timberwolves shot poorly, but they were 33% from 3, better than we were. There is some referee hand-wringing going on the timeline. Grant Williams' jump ball was a little Hey, man.
We got the timeout off, though. Like,
Yeah.
Also,
that's
Rudy
fair.
Gobert, the last 2-minute report said that his foot was out of bounds when he forced that jump ball in the first place. So it's all a moot point.
Right, perfect. Yeah, no, it was an ugly game, but it was good to see. Like, even if they would have lost, it was like at least they turned up, and like sometimes the threes aren't going to go in, but we saw the ball movement was back. Like they looked a lot more like themselves, and it's just like you can have a bad shooting night, but if you're doing the other things, at least it's going to give yourself a chance to win. Not only was it giving them a chance to win, they were up like 13. If they were able to just like hit 1 or 2 shots, that lead gets pretty close to 20, and we don't have to like lose another 12 months from our total life expectancy if that actually happens. But alas, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I guess for me the most positive takeaway was that there were signs of life from the Celtics in this particular game, and they almost threw it all away at the end of the game by giving up again way too many offensive rebounds and giving up way too many extra possessions and just almost like pissing the game down their leg. But we've seen a few different iterations of the Celtics so far this year. We've seen the make fucking everything Celtics of November. We've seen subsequently the find a way to win Celtics, which sort of existed for a longer stretch. And then we've seen the bed shitting Celtics of weeks past. And this was at least a throwback to the find a way to win Celtics, where despite shooting, 30% flat from 3, 40% overall from the field, not great, yet finding a way to win, and somewhat through their defense and maybe a little bit of, under the table dealership with the referees there. But finding a way to win despite the poor shooting. A lot of the conversation recently has been, look, these Celtics, they're overrated, particularly from non-Celtics fans. If their threes aren't going in, they're not going to win. And so to have to win a game in this fashion, like the find a way to win Celtics, I think Chris Forsberg, our buddy there, coined that phrase. That's really promising. On a more granular level, I thought that our guards did a really good job when switched on to Rudy Gobert, limiting him. Like, I don't know what his average shot attempts are on the season, but just 8 shots from Rudy Gobert, like clearly the biggest guy with the most advantageous, post positions in this game. Like he got Malcolm Brogdon under the bucket a couple of times. He got Jaylen Brown, Derek White under the bucket a couple of times. And the strength of our guards alone, let alone the help that did eventually come, was enough oftentimes to limit Gobert to just 15 points and 6 rebounds, which is just
one
crazy, given his size.
offensive rebound, which is the biggest
wild
number for me. I mean, that's where he gets so much of his offense is when you switch onto Gobert, with a guard like Derek White or Brogdon or even Tatum was like his primary defender for large swaths of this game.
Spicy.
He will get those offensive rebounds, and we did such a good job boxing him out. And Smart did. I mean, say what you want about Marcus Smart's shooting. He was boxing Rudy Gobert out like a monster that entire game, to the point at one point he got a foul for it, which was a very weak foul, I think in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a great job on Gobert, didn't we, man? He's just have fun paying him $50 million for the next couple of years, Minnie. Sorry, dude. That's terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Now, look,
the fact that they're so solid without, part of their cap being assigned to a dude that is just so ineffective on one end. I've never seen a player quite like him before. Like, once it goes down there, and Scal's on it too, as everybody screaming at home, like, do not send help. Like, don't let your brain be tricked by the fact that he's 7'2" and he has Derek White on him. Like, there's no reason to send help. He's going to throw some absolute junk at the rim, and he's got to be ready to rebound. Like his inability to punish small defenders is incredible.
He seems to be a member of the Trae Young, like, unlikable all-star team as well. Like, there seems to be a lot of disdain for Rudy Gobert across the roster for the Celtics, just as there was recently for Trae Young. Maybe we can have some fun in the offseason building out what the rest of that team looks like. You mentioned Spoonie earlier. Did we win on the margins? Yes and no. So rebounding, no. Assists, no. But steals, blocks, turnovers, yes. And then it's kind of a wash as far as like second chance points and points in the paint and things like that. But I think any game where you finish, especially these Celtics right now, single digit turnovers are absolutely huge in winning this game. And here's what Joe Mazzulla had to say after this one.
Looked like you were
trying to get a timeout there.
Yeah, don't ever say I didn't call one. Listen, it's honestly, just because we won doesn't mean I feel that much better. I thought we fouled too much in the third quarter. And, you know, we gave up some timely offensive rebounds. And so I thought our physicality and our competitive nature was about a 10. And we just have to continue to execute the margins in clutch situations. You know, so we won most of them tonight. Out shooting them at the free throw line, turnovers, offensive rebounds. You know, we just have to have timely execution on those margins.
Just when we think we've captured everything like thematically from this season, the margins. Suddenly it's the margins. And any thoughts from you, Jake, as far as, you know, Joe's takeaways from this one or just any sort of, you know, overarching themes from this particular game?
He's 100% right. Like these years that are being shaved off of our lives are very, very attributable to the offensive rebounds that happen with 5 minutes to go in a close game, or the rebounds that turn it into a close game. Like I can see PJ Tucker in my nightmares right now, swooping in game 7 and in game 6, just like getting these offensive rebounds because no one puts a body on him. Like I'm 100% with Joe. They did a great job boxing out for the most part, but you know when the most important time of the game to box out is with 5 minutes to go. And like, that's when, you know, there's no more crucial time. How many times has Marcus Smart swooped in for a crucial offensive rebound with a few minutes to go? Like you cannot have those happen. And that's how you end up with close games. I like that this has become a focus for him because I think it was a massive strength of the team throughout the season. You know, we've heard, you know, best defensive rebounding team in the league. Before, you know, and people thinking, oh, that's Rob. He's so good at defensive rebounding, and that's why. But pre-Rob coming back, like when he was out for the first few months, we were 6th in the league in defensive rebounding. Like there was a team commitment. I thought Jaylen was having Jaylen and Jayson were both having their best rebounding seasons, most impactful rebounding seasons. When you have Al Horford out there, it needs to be a team commitment. Like it's not on. Like, of course, we want him to get on the boards, but like, it's not a reasonable expectation to have him clean up all the defensive rebounding at this point in his career, especially when it was something he was never elite at. So it needs to be something that they continue all the way to the end, not when it feels like the game's within reach, all the way through, so we can live a little bit longer.
Please. Any thoughts, Spoonie, on that?
Yeah, I just, you know, we tied them for offensive rebounds. They only had 2 in the fourth quarter. It felt like 100, but they were 2.
It was only 2?
It was only 2, but it was 2
I don't believe it.
very, very big ones. And Kyle Anderson had 4 of them, like 4 of their 8 offensive rebounds. Yeah, he was great. He was excellent, but he could not stay in front of Jaylen Brown, which was nice. But as far as Joe hinting at like, hey, crunch time was a problem, this was the worst of the Celtics once it hit 5 minutes. They slowed the pace, and that's what the Timberwolves want you to do because they can set Gobert down in the paint, you slow the pace, and then they can have him help on any drives. And we just kind of played into their hands, and we let them walk back into this game. I mean, Edwards hit some stuff in that fourth quarter that, you know, you just are indefensible because he's just a great player, man, and he's very fun to watch. So I would have liked us to continue playing with pace. We weren't making a ton of shots, but everything we were doing, like those quick actions, get Jaylen Brown on a pin down, get him going to the rim. I mean, that they couldn't stop it, right? Because they were just having McDaniels one-on-one Tatum, and we were trying to run actions to get, you know, it's like the 2-man game with Tatum and Smart to get Tatum with Conley on him. But McDaniels is doing he was probably fouling Tatum a few times on some of these picks he was trying to set. But I mean, push come to shove, like you're taking 15 seconds off the shot clock to get McDaniels not even off Tatum because he's doing such a good job, like hedging the screen or you know, just grabbing him at times that they weren't calling. And there was just some very bad possessions. It was just such a slowdown. I'd like to see us like just the offense hasn't been working this game, but it was getting Jaylen Brown into these great positions. And then we just completely go away from it in those last 5 minutes. And it's just like, why. I don't understand why. He was they couldn't guard him all game. He's got Kyle Anderson on him the whole game. He lights him up for 35 points. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's go to Tatum with one of the best wing defenders in the league on him.
Yeah, the offensive foul that Tatum committed on the screen, trying to get it off as well, which was very obvious. Didn't think that was a bad call at all. It was like, let's just run, let Marcus initiate, let Jaylen initiate, let's get the offense moving, and then Tatum can catch it like after the ball's moving. We don't need to just have Tatum like isoing from the top when he's been so cold, especially the last couple of games. Like Jaylen Brown has been unreal. Like going back to the Rockets game when we're calling for Jaylen Brown to get the last shot. Like it's okay for Tatum to not be the one taking the shots in the last 5 minutes. Like this man is on fire, unstoppable right now. Like, and I spoke about it the other day. It's like if you're up, with a few minutes to go, it's okay to take some time off. When you run your offense, like run it fast. Why does it feel like they're just moving in
slow motion, man?
Unreal. So like, and like the Heat Game 7 game, like that's always going to be the first thing that comes to my mind. It's like just play the way you got the lead for 90 more seconds and the game's over. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. I mean, excuse me, Jaylen Brown has just
you had it right.
Absolutely incredible. And we unfortunately, if you're watching on YouTube, I was about to make a joke about, do we really know that it's not Michael Jordan, but we can see him now with the mask off. So clearly it's Jaylen Brown. Nonetheless, I hope that in a couple of weeks or in the playoffs, we're talking about, wasn't it great that Jaylen Brown led the way in terms of being locked in such that the rest of the team subsequently followed? And I talked about earlier, we did see signs of life in this game, albeit not for a full 48 minutes. Jaylen Brown has been locked in like this for the last week or so. He's had an incredible week, and I hope that the rest of the team follows suit. And it's a really good showing and sign of leadership for Jaylen Brown that he's playing in this particular way when there's a general malaise across the rest of the roster. But, the way that Jaylen Brown is finding like pockets to get into the lane and to score and to do essentially everything and to drive relentlessly despite having a literally broken face is absolutely incredible. He's been so much fun to watch, and we have to give kudos to this man, because without him playing, some of his best basketball of his career right now, like we're not looking at like any wins recently at all, which is terrifying to say, but absolutely truthful. Spoonie, any other thoughts on Jaylen's game so far? I feel like we need to give him at least another couple more minutes to give him credit.
It just feels like the mix between mid-range, driving, open threes. It's like you can't guard him at this point. Like if he's making his threes, there's nothing you can do, because his first step is so incredibly quick, and he's so strong when he gets into those mid-range areas. And his footwork is on another level this year. Like that one move he had on Gobert, I believe it was in the fourth quarter. He pivoted like 6 times.
So good.
And then laid it off the top corner of the glass. Like
Michael Jordan.
Even Scal's like, how did he make that shot? I mean, like, what do you do with this dude, man? And, Kyle Anderson, for his own right, is a pretty damn good perimeter defender. And I mean, Jaylen embarrassed him all night. So, he's got to get the free throws back in order a little bit. I think it was like 5 of 8 last night. But other than that, like, thank God Jaylen's been playing this way, because we this could be real trouble. But, despite all the terribleness, I believe we're 6-5 after the All-Star break. And, we're talking like the sky's falling. The Nuggets just lost 4 in a row. You know what I mean? Like, imagine
to the Pistons as we speak.
And there might be 5. So
good.
Jaylen Brown has kept us afloat in a lot of ways, and just the way he opens up the offense for other guys, maybe not with his passing, but with the pressure he puts on a defense just by being on the floor, is so incredibly valuable. And, I hope his jump shot's coming back a little bit, because I think he's only shooting like 33% from 3 this year. And if he can get that right for the playoffs, man, not sure there's a number 2 I'd rather have in the league.
This is why the Celtics are so good. Like when Tatum does have a slump, which is kind of what he's in right now. Like if you kind of rewind another 2 games, the Atlanta and Portland games were pretty high level. So it hasn't been, it speaks to how good Tatum is that the slumps are also peppered with like MVP caliber games at the same time. But Jaylen, since the All-Star break, 11 games, 28, 3.7 assists on 50, 38, and 76. Like the 3 balls definitely come back, right? Like
It's
38.
absurdly good.
Yeah.
Like he's been so good. And that Cleveland game that Grant Williams missed the free throws in, it sucks that obviously because they lost, but like that game just kind of being lost a little bit because that just speaks to how locked in and how much he's willing to put on the line for the Celtics right now. Like I forgot to mention 39.1 minutes over the last 11 games. Like he's unloading the tank right now to keep the Celtics rolling. And we just need the rest of the boys to follow suit. But I love this from Jaylen. He's been speaking about it in the press conferences, and I think that Tatum at least played the right way and brought the same energy. The shot might not be falling right now, but as long as if he's inspiring, kind of how like Smart Dad did in his prime, right? In his soon to be prime coming back, when he's leading the charge by like diving on the floor, getting steals. When Jaylen's like out in transition and dunking on people, like that invigorates the team. He's been getting in passing lanes, averaging 1.6 steals over this stretch as well. Like playing like when maybe it's the mask. He's like a little extra camouflage, but he's
Dialed
able to
in.
like he's sneaking around, getting extra steals, getting out in transition.
it.
But you
love it, man.
can't really overstate how good Jaylen's been over this stretch. And when you think about going into the playoffs, I'm not worried about Tatum, but when you see Jaylen's 3-ball come back, the turnovers come down a little bit, the defense ramp up, you're like, okay, here we go.
And real quick, Tatum didn't play his best game, but I feel like there was a maturity to how he played. He took 8 fewer shots than Jaylen Brown. Mm-hmm. When is the last time something like that's a ton of shots. 8. So he kind of conceded to Jaylen, other than kind of that last ugly stretch in the fourth quarter. It's like, you're cooking, man. I'm just going to play off ball, make the right pass, and you do your thing.
Now, Spoonie, I happen to know that you have prepared some Jayson Tatum statistical gold for us, some analytical gold. So over to you, good sir.
Yeah. So, we're talking about Tatum being in sort of a downswing, and it's actually kind of been a gradual downswing from January 1st. So to start the season to December 31st, his true shooting percentage was over 61%, which is elite, especially on his volume, incredibly elite. Since January 1 to now, his true shooting's down to 58.6. Still good, still above league average, like not bad on his volume at all. But I really think it's about not that he's just like missing shots or something like that. It's about where he's getting the ball and his role in the offense. And I think that goes to the offense always pops when Marcus Smart's on the floor. And that's because he operates as the primary ball handler a lot. And when Smart's not at his best or he's out, Tatum has to take on a lot of that load. So his assists are actually up. That first chunk of the season, he was only averaging 4 assists. He's up to 5.5 since January 1st, which sounds great, but you've got to counter that with the drop in efficiency, right? So he's down in paint touches. Tatum is. He's down in he's down in paint touches and he's down in elbow touches. He's literally the most efficient post-up player in the NBA right now. He's the second most efficient on points per elbow touch, right? So if he gets an elbow touch, only Kevin Durant is more efficient than him.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he's had to absorb more of that primary ball handler possessions where he's running pick and roll and stuff. And do you remember at the beginning of the year, we were talking about like, oh, Tatum's off ball more. He's getting into these pin downs. I mean, like how many like those weak side pin downs where he'd come off 2 picks and get the ball on the run and he'd just get his way to the rim did we see? we're not seeing any of that now. They're running it for Jaylen, but Tatum's the one passing it to him. So we're putting Tatum in a position where he's asked to effectively run the offense a lot more, and he's not being put in these positions where he can score or get in these efficient spots on the court where he's essentially unguardable on like the nail, free throw line extended, at the free throw line. Like we do it against zone, but we don't do it consistently when we're playing against man. But at the beginning of the year, we were, and he was having the most efficient season of his career, scoring 31 points a game. And now he's just under 30 and not as efficient. And he's taking he's taking one more pull-up three a game, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of a season, he's shooting them so poorly. You're trading efficient possessions for inefficient ones. So now that Smart's back, I'd like to see us get back to Jayson Tatum, off-ball dynamo. Like, I don't care about his assists anymore. Like, get him back to post-ups, elbow touches. Get him as the roll man. Like we see that here and there, but when Smart's not as dynamic as he was at the beginning of the season, it just doesn't work as well. And actually last night we were seeing Tatum as the ball handler and Smart as the roll man, which works okay, but it's not the same. Like Tatum is such a weapon when he catches in that high post area, and we just got to get back to that now that Smart's healthy. And I think we'll see his efficiency dial back up. And then once he's comfortable, right, we always say he gets to the rim, he gets easy baskets, then his shooting comes. And instead, it seems like he's trying to shoot himself into games, which just never works, man. It really doesn't.
He's shooting himself out of games.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, like harking back to signs of life, I thought we saw Marcus Smart maestroing, for lack of a better term, a little bit more in this game. He was a little bit more, pure point guard, pass first, some catch and shoot attempts, but like less forcing it until the fourth quarter, which we'll get to, which we absolutely really needed on top of Grant Williams' heroics there. And we did see at least one Jayson Tatum post up. It was more low post. It was less of that high post. But he did finish well out of that look. And I think it was Marcus Smart who set him up for that. So again, yeah, signs of life. Like we are seeing, I believe, a shift back to that. And it's like, I know that Joe Mazzulla used the sandcastle analogy, but to me it's more like, okay, we've got to replant the seeds, and that tree is not going to shoot up in a day. But we're starting to see the little seedlings, the little sprouts happening. I think we started to see some sprouting in this game, or we started to see a shift back to that Marcus Smart conducting of the orchestra, and out of that, it bore out some better looks from Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, look, there was just a storm. Like some of the trees, we have to cut off some of the dead branches and stuff, but the roots are still on the ground.
We lost a season of crops.
Exactly. Look, the trunk, the infrastructure, the foundations of the best team in the NBA are still intact. Look, we had, some Marcus Smart injury, Rob's out, just general doldrums like these. It's just like nature. They're inevitable. And yeah, exactly right. You get everybody together. The sun's shining now. We're out on the West Coast. It's good. We're gonna get everything back on track. But yeah, 10 3-point attempts per game for Tatum over the past 11. This wrist question, I've seen this popping up more on Twitter the last couple of days, and it always just seems to come up when Tatum's not playing well. I don't feel like the wrist is a reason for his struggles right now. Like, when he goes 6 for 10 from 3 against Portland a couple games ago, does that just mean the wrist was feeling better that day? Like the finishing throughout the season's been good. Like it feels far more like a process thing than it does an injury thing when you watch Tatum's good games versus bad games like right now. So yeah, the post up stuff, a lot of the first plays of the game, we run pin downs for Al to shoot a 3 or stuff like that, which is fine. But over the first few minutes, let's get Tatum going downhill and get these post touches. He obviously wants to shoot the 3s, but let's kind of take that decision out of his hands for him and have a cheeky word to Marcus before games. And Marcus has gotten so good at kind of running to a wing. He's got it perfected with Jaylen, and Jaylen looks like he's coming up for a handoff and then just cuts baseline for the dunk. And Tatum actually, I thought, had a couple of nice off-ball cuts, and he had one perfect one, but Rudy Gobert got his 7'8" arm in there to deflect it. But there was definitely more of a focus from Tatum, getting some easier looks off ball. So exactly, the seeds are growing. We're recovering. Nature is healing.
Well, on that particular cut from Jayson Tatum, we do have a clip here to run.
Pass and the flush, and Tatum takes a hard fall.
Jesus Christ, man. I mean, was this the most heart attack moment of the season for you guys?
I actually wasn't worried at all.
Threw it down.
Wow.
Really went
Gal overreacted, so you know it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
really
Like,
hard. And
Let's see if we can get the replay here. Here we go. Ooh.
I mean, that hurt. That hurt for sure.
But one,
That is a sick dunk.
Yes.
and the fact that
That
it
was
was followed
incredible.
up immediately after the Rudy Gobert. No one has ever looked less cool dunking and flexing than when Rudy Gobert did it. and
Dunked on
does it in
Derek
general.
White. He's like 6'3", bro.
I know.
Like, that is
And
not a flex.
Because do you think the reason that people got annoyed? I wasn't necessarily thinking it was the flex, but it was like he kind of like launched his feet into Derek. That was what I think pissed everybody off, versus the flex. And I loved that Tatum in the post game was like, "Yeah, I had that in
I
my
took that
in my
personally.
head." Yeah, I took that
It
personally.
was his last dance moment.
Gobert was like out of control for a lot of this game, man. I feel like he was just flailing around. He elbowed Jaylen at one point. It didn't look like he did it intentionally, but he was just like seemingly all over the place, uncomfortable. So I fuck that guy. We can swear now. We're not
Yeah.
on Celtics.
We
squad.
can,
Fuck
yeah.
that guy.
He's the worst. And then Tatum got straight back up and did, I do a bit of yoga and stretching myself. He got up and did like the downward dog, hands to feet. That guy's limber, man.
Yeah.
That guy is limber. I cannot relate to his durability. Like, I played netball last night, and I'm feeling it today, despite doing a pretty serious stretching routine after the game. Tatum is built differently, as the kids say.
You got to get to those dynamic warm-ups, the jump squats, the jump pistol squats, all that
trust
kind
me,
of stuff. The stretching
when-
as you get into your late 30s, it's not enough. You need to have like a full hour of activity before the actual activity.
I am a huge dynamic warm-up guy. And I stole some of their dynamic warm-ups when me and Ben, we saw the Team USA come to Australia. I got there early, and I stole the whole routine. It helps a little bit.
Now, absolutely. I couldn't recommend it more. We're going to get to some more, I guess, individual shout-outs from this game as we look to, once again, fail to do a succinct recap of a game and go half an hour on a pretty, nothing
Meaningless.
much game. Interesting stat I found on Reddit as I was sort of digging for content was that the Celtics, let me make sure I'm reading the right comment here. Basically, they've had 33 games where they've shot their season average from 37.6% or above. And in those games, they're 29-4, which is to say, like, we don't need to shoot at an elite level to be successful. I know a lot of talk around the Celtics has been like they have to shoot 40 or more % from three in order to win a game. If they're not making all of their threes, then they've got no chance. Clearly, we just need to shoot our own average. And sure, our average is high because of that hot November that we had, but we can get away with shooting average for this team on a nightly basis and still being successful, incredibly successful, 29-4. So I just wanted to maybe right the ship there as far as the shooting narrative for the Celtics. Spoonie's got a little grin going on here. What are your thoughts here, mate?
You got to shout out our guys Tice and
Of
Swim
course.
Jim on that. Come on,
we're
man.
so far away from being the Celtics Reddit podcast. I'm completely rusty in that regard. But of course, yeah.
Those are our
shout out-
guys.
Absolutely. Shout out Tice159. Shout out Squim Jim for no other reason other than the fact that he's been on the pod before and he's in that thread. So absolutely shout out to you guys. As far as other individual takeaways from this game, so we hit the Jays, we hit Marcus Smart. I think Al Horford was incredible, and I think that he helped reaffirm Kyle Anderson's nickname, slow-mo, a couple of times, where he was able to take him off the dribble a couple of times. He was able to follow slow-mo to the rim and block him a couple of times. I thought that Blake Griffin was incredible. I might run our incredible Blake Griffin highlight now. I can't wait to push the button on this. Here we go.
73-62. Tatum. Over to Griffin.
Oh, yeah.
For the flush.
Sky.
Blake Griffin on the floor now.
Multiple
for the
Blake
Celtics.
Griffin
Grab
dunks.
the rebound.
So good.
Brogdon.
Were they both
Over
lefty?
Griffin.
They were.
I think so. He's an expert dunker.
Yeah.
He is an expert dunker. So good to see. And not like blurred by losing the game. You know, to have those two gifts from Blake Griffin and the basketball gods and a win was incredible. Jake, any other notable individual performances in this game?
Blake has been so much better than I could have ever hoped for this season. Like, he's been legitimately very helpful in a lot of wins this year. Like, and he's kind of stolen Grant's minutes. Grant, I know he had the offensive rebound and he won the jump ball, but I just didn't think it was a very good Grant game again.
No,
like,
you are
there's
right. You are correct.
One play sticks out, and it was just a closeout where he's like half closing out, jumping out. It was McLaughlin, and McLaughlin just destroyed him on the closeout. And I'm like, you have to be able to stay in front of McLaughlin. You have to. This is why you're on the court. And then we close with Grant over Derek again. I know he gets the offensive rebound, but the offense from Grant right now, I don't know where we're going back and forth between getting his confidence back and not, but like the Grant saga is just ongoing every single game right now. And Blake's playing better than Grant. Like, it's true. The problem is that I don't think that holds up in the playoffs.
I thought Grant had an ugly game, but he was okay. Like, he had some ugly defensive possessions, but I thought he did pretty well a few times in isolation. He had Anthony Edwards on him a couple times, and I thought he held up okay. And, you know, Blake Griffin, as Arini says in the chat, is the third best defensive player in the league, according to D-Raptor, which
That's insane.
I choose to believe. So I'm hoping this is a confidence builder for Grant. I didn't think he did anything like destructive. You know, I mean, that the McLaughlin play was real bad. Scal even called him out. He's like, "That's what you're in the game for, dude, because you can."
Yeah, exactly.
But I thought in the grand scheme of like how disastrous he's been recently, I thought this was a better defensive showing for Grant than it's been recently. So I'm hoping, you know, with the clutch plays, he can build on it a little bit. But, you know, all I have to say is, Chris Finch, thank you for taking out Naz Reid and putting in Rudy Gobert in crunch time.
Yeah.
If I was a Wolves fan,
Naz
I'd be
Reid was
so mad.
was destroying us.
Yeah. Like,
He's
crowdfund the buyout of Rudy Gobert's
Yeah.
salary at this point. If I was a Wolves fan, that would be the campaign that I would be leading out in the streets of Minneapolis. There is insane. Naz Reid, so much better than Rudy Gobert, like in all facets of the game. And yeah, again, something that Scal called out. Gobert goes out. Oh, sorry. Gobert comes in. Naz Reid goes out. And like, Scal's like, really? Like, how long are they going to do this for?
God.
Yeah, it totally bore out in the Celtics' favor. But Grant Williams, like, stealing the tip, the jump ball there. Kind of the quintessential Grant Williams experience, like just like doing weird shit and getting away with it. I thought that was kind of an incredible way for him to like endear himself and redeem himself in the eyes of Celtics fans, because that and the offensive rebound that he got, I think just prior to that, was absolutely essential for the Celtics in securing this game. So however you feel about Grant Williams, like we needed him in this particular one, which is nice to be able to say, because, you know, recently it's been, we've needed him to be on the bench in order for us to be successful. So having him out there doing something that we need is a nice takeaway. The other individual takeaway or performance that I want to shout out, Malcolm Brogdon, 12 points. Yeah, he finished a -6. Not everyone finished with a positive plus-minus in this game, but in the Rockets game as well, and really since the All-Star break, I feel like Malcolm Brogdon has just been like particularly solid off the bench, less defensive mistakes, quite good at getting to the rim, and his 3-ball is back to going down again. Like he's just sort of back to like a really essential top 7 player for the Celtics as we head into the playoffs. That's just really good to see him playing at this level. Spoonie, any other takeaways on Malcolm Brogdon there? I feel like he's been really good lately.
Yeah, I thought Brogdon's rim pressure was huge in this game. It seemed like we were having a lot of trouble. He was not afraid of Gobert at all. Sometimes you see a shot blocker like that, you're a little hesitant to get all the way to the rim, and Brogdon was just going at him. I mean, I'm almost surprised to see he only had 12 points because he felt like he had a lot more. But he was just getting all the way to the rim multiple times. I think he missed 3 bunnies, probably 2 bunnies that he should have put in. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the Brogger experience right there.
Does Scal not know that Malcolm Brogdon misses at the rim a lot? Like every time he misses at the rim, he's like, "Oh, you don't see that very much." I'm like, you literally watch every game.
He's shooting like 50% at the rim this year. He's like one of the worst finishers in the league.
But he's getting there.
Exactly. And that's important.
No, I think Malcolm Brogdon has been incredible this season, but when we get to the playoffs, it's going to really shine. Like what he is able to do, what he's the best at, creating his own shot is the most valuable when you get to the playoffs. Like we've had him on this, old man injury plan, and I really think it's going to pay off more so for him than anyone else. I wish we were doing a little bit more of that with Tatum and Jaylen, but he is so good at creating his own shot. When things break down, when there's 5 seconds left on the clock, and for whatever reason we've done the press like slow motion on our offense button, and Malcolm Brogdon's actually able to save us from those things. And when you look back on last season's postseason run, like having Malcolm Brogdon throughout that postseason run, I think you win the Milwaukee and Heat series in one fewer less games, and that just gives you the juice you need to win the finals. Like he's so impactful. Like people talk about like not having Middleton for the Bucks last year, adding Brogdon to this mix on top of still having Rob and a more confident Derek White. Brogdon, I think, is a piece that people aren't really talking about going into the playoffs.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think we can definitely expect an elevated effort from everyone on the roster. Like we've seen their best effort during pockets of the season. I think we're at this stage and listening to other podcasts and reading articles from various media outlets, it seems like that's where everyone's at. Like, yes, like this is slumpy. And, in Jayson Tatum's case, it's a shooting slump, but he's still finding other ways to impact the game like Spoonie discussed. But like, we're all pretty confident based on what we've seen this season and postseasons past that like these guys can flip that switch into the playoffs. And I think that Malcolm Brogdon, like you said there, Jake, is a huge part of that. We should move on in an effort to do a podcast under 1 hour. So let's start with this. Danilo Gallinari. Yes, he might. Like, is it possible? Look at this tease. Like, I'll see if I can play this without glitching out our stream here.
Oh, yeah. 2-hand dribble. Oh,
look at that move.
Lay it.
Look at that Euro.
That's about as quick as he moves.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Quicker. He's looking good.
Say Gallo.
Shout out to that guy's producer.
Say Gallo comes back in time for the playoffs. Do you guys trust him to play, not having played basketball in a year?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
In round 1, and if it goes well, then there you go. You keep playing until it doesn't work.
All right, yeah.
I don't know.
What about you, Spoons?
No, but I never trusted him in the playoffs. So.
Sure, you were always a little anti-Gallo.
In the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, do you trust Sam Hauser in the playoffs? Do you trust this current version of Grant Williams in the playoffs?
Grant, yes.
Okay.
I do.
That makes me feel
and maybe
better.
That's crazy, but he's shown up in the playoffs, man.
Once.
I don't know what's going. Yeah, twice. He was good
once
in the
and a
Raptors
half
series. Yeah, once and a half. I'll give you half. There. So, I think we're gonna really need Grant to guard Giannis, assuming we make it there. So I trust Grant for his limited role. I don't know what to expect from Gallo, but man, if he's playing, that offense is gonna be popping.
So the tweet is almost ready, and then an arrow with soon under it, a basketball, and a winky face. So if that's not confirmation of I'm coming back soon, I don't know what is. That's as good as a Woj press release that his return is imminent.
He's been around.
I mean,
a lot.
why would you do that? Why would you do that if you didn't intend on coming back soon? Jake?
I did see on Twitter Max Lizette Celtics Twitter. He was like on holiday and ran into some girls who claimed to be like good friends with Gallo, and
Reliable
they
source.
said that he's coming back this season. He might truly believe it, but like that is a different thing to actually playing NBA minutes. So that's reliable. Woj, whatever. Random
Bum.
girls in Carbone on the beach.
Move over, Woj.
Exactly. Yeah.
Chelsea, Kelsey, and Brittany are our
Yeah.
new Woj.
Look.
Yeah, the new media. Well, someone who I guess we should wrap that up by saying there's a difference between being made active on a roster and being made relevant in a playoff rotation. So maybe we can leave it there. Also nearing a return and closer to playoff relevance. The Time Lord apparently due back any game now. Spoonie, like how do you want to see things played out for Robert Williams between now? There's 12 games remaining. Do you want him to throw him in there 32 minutes a game, like ramp up, or just like basically keep him on ice, bring him in as the backup big behind Al Horford and just like keep it chill?
I'm going full Jake. I'm going
Yes,
full. Wrap him
thank
in
you.
ice, throw him in
Yeah.
the freezer, play him 15 minutes a game just to get his conditioning back a little bit. Maybe 1 or 2 games for the rest of the year. You ramp him up to 30 just so he remembers what it feels like, and then ice him, dude. I mean, at this point,
Literally.
yeah, literally throw him on ice, throw him in the hyperbaric chamber. I don't care, but at this point, we know even the best version of Rob's incredibly impactful for this team. So I don't care if he doesn't get 10 games of playing 30 minutes a night. We're gonna need him. We absolutely do need him. So just make sure he's healthy for the playoff. I'm not even sure I'd play him in round 1, honestly.
Yeah.
It depends who we play, but like I'm that concerned.
Look, man, it's just ticking time bomb. Like, hey, he'll be out 7 to 10 days. He's been out 12 days already. Like, and he's out for the Portland game. Maybe like he's not questionable, which makes me think he's potentially not playing in the next game. But the fact that there's a back-to-back, maybe he comes back for the Utah game, that takes it to like pretty much 2 weeks, which would be almost kind of like on the double how long they initially said, which is just kind of how Time Lord injuries go. Outside of the one meniscus injury where it was like you're either going to be out for 6 months or a month, and he was back early, you have to keep him on ice. And it's like, even in the playoffs, like 22 minutes a game, if that means you get 90% of peak Rob, like for the whole run, versus like you play him 34 minutes in game like 3 of the second round, and then all of a sudden he's like limping around for the rest of the playoffs. Like, we can win. Like Al Horford, man. Like we're gonna have to just empty that tank. Like, I don't know what to tell. Like,
Dial it up, Al.
the fountain of youth. Like, yeah, look, he's gonna this. If not now, like, what are we saving it for? So.
Look, we're probably playing Miami in round 1.
No, don't say that.
That Explorer dude thought the Fountain of Youth was in Florida, Ponce de Leon or whatever his name was. So there you go. We're good. Dial it up. You're playing 40 minutes a night, Al, until round 2. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh God, Miami in the first round is a conversation for another
Nightmare.
day that I need to mentally prepare myself.
When we
for.
get closer, we will do a how scared of these playoff opponents we are, and Miami's going to be up there for me.
/ like Celtics fan therapy episode, our first one for the year, which is amazing that we haven't done one yet. Yeah.
Currently, 68% chance of getting the 2 seed for us, and 73% chance of getting the 7 seed for the Heat. So,
Jesus.
they've been really, really bad.
Trash.
Like, they were the 1 seed last year.
It
don't
doesn't
think it
matter,
matters.
though.
I know
They
it doesn't
just
matter,
know.
but it should matter.
But they derailed us this season. Like that's the turning point. Is that really the first game? But then I think we won that game. But the second game against the Heat that we lost, Like that was the turning point. Then we went on
Spiral.
to the Warriors. Yeah, we had that brutal West Coast road trip where we barely beat the Lakers in overtime. That was it. That was the turning point. So to face those guys in the postseason, I'm not going to get into it. We'll talk about it later. The Blazers, we play them next. And they have lost 3 of their last 5 games, one of which was to us. And really it was our like most recently just like decisive win. I'd probably call the Hawks win a decisive win as well. Spoonie, like we're going to win this game, right? Any major takeaways for this one?
I don't trust this team, but I do feel like I thought Missoula's game plan against the Blazers was excellent. It's easier to guard them without Simons out there, but I don't know if Simons is going to play. I don't know how badly he's hurt, but if he does, I mean, that just exposes their defense even more. They don't have any answers on the wing for both the Jays. So I love how we match up against the Blazers. So I feel like we'll win that one.
We've had so many great wins against the Blazers over the past few years. We always play well against them. Like their defense is tailor-made for Jaylen to keep going and for Jayson to kind of end the slump here. Obviously, he had that incredible game, 30 points in 3 quarters. So it'd be great to see that going again. Yeah, they are so squishy. Like Nurkic, not a rim protector, like can beat him off the dribble. They've got no perimeter defense. Like the odds were slightly closer than I thought, which was intriguing to me. Only favored by 5.5.
Is it because Tatum's questionable? I wonder if that's why.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Maybe we can bring that up now.
Might be good to get on that number now before he plays because he's playing.
Yeah, I'm not betting on the Celtics at the moment.
Dude, stay away.
There is the injury report. Danilo Gallinari, despite recent hype, still out with the ACL repair. Peyton Pritchard, left heel pain, he's out. Jayson Tatum, left hip contusion, which we just saw a highlight of recently, questionable. And the Time Lord also still out as well. So, yeah, maybe hesitate a little bit on betting on the Celtics. Maybe wait for some of those injury concerns to be a little bit more solidified before you choose a direction there. But an NBA game against the Blazers for the Celtics, it's almost like a basketball sparring session, right? It just seems too easy for the Celtics based on, the squishy defense and everything that you guys have already said. So I'm pretty confident going into this one.
It's a shame Pritchard's out. I feel like he shows out in Portland because it's near Seattle.
True. Remember that game where everybody was like over each other and Ime got mad? It's great.
Hell yeah. All right, finally, before we wrap up here, one of the best pieces of Celtics content, maybe ever, was posted yesterday. The KG and Paul Pierce, the old guard, interviewing the new guard, interviewing the Jays and Marcus Smart. I guess it was filmed after they lost 3 straight to the Magic, the Heat, and the Knicks, but like still harboring championship hopes. Jake, I'll start with you. Like, what are your main takeaways from this interview? Like, there was a lot to glean from this. It was a lot of fun. What was the sort of the standout point for you?
Super fun, obviously. Tatum just has no interest in this stuff, does he? I don't know. If it's so funny how like Tim Duncan he is. Like he clearly like is like part of the crew and he plays cards and jokes around behind cameras. But once the cameras are on, he just like really doesn't like giving stuff away. But I think my favorite part of the show was when KG asked the group and Marcus was the one who answered, but like, do you guys realize how special this group is, not just from a talent point of view, but the fact that you guys have all, been together for so long? And Marcus was like, it's all about these guys' ego, just talking about Jaylen and Jayson and how their egos don't surpass the rest of the team. Like, when they're winning, they give credit to the team, and when they're losing, they take the blame. I think speaks to how underrated it is when it comes to like these guys and their maintenance as a superstar. Like these guys are so chill as superstars relative to other. Look, how many stars have changed teams? Like how many conference finals losses and then scrutiny by the national media, the local media, like. How many other situations would we not still have Jaylen, Jayson, and Marcus together? I think that speaks, from Danny Ainge to Brad down, but I think it mostly speaks to Jaylen and Jayson. Like there's been no trade requests or anything close to that, no drama, and so
that we know
I think, with that we know of, right? That was, I think, like my broader takeaway. And like, we all hope that Jaylen and Jayson and Marcus just like stay here for their whole careers. And so when you hear stuff like that, that just like fills me with joy and relief. So yeah, that was probably my favorite part.
Spoonie?
It's going to be very quick. I have not had an opportunity to watch it yet. So
it is very long.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten to it. But I will say, like, on that point with, Tatum is part of the boys, but doesn't show it in front of camera. The first part when Pierce and KG were just running around the Auerbach Center, they caught Brogdon like eating lunch. And he was like, it's the culture, man. Every team talks about how, every team talks about how like they go to dinner and every team talks about how they go to dinner and all that stuff, but it's actually happening. Like we all actually go to dinner. We all actually do stuff off the court together. And that was good to hear. So just please win the title this year. Or next. God. I'll take that too.
Sometimes
I'll take this year just because of Al Horford's extremely limited window. This year's it's got to be it. For me, KG and Paul Pierce asked the group, Marcus and the Jays, do you have any questions for us? And they threw to Marcus Smart and he kind of like fumbled a little bit. And Jaylen Brown was like, I have a question. Like, what the fuck happened with the wheelchair finals? And like Paul Pierce went on to explain it like very articulately and very clearly, almost like he's had to explain that many times in his life since then, especially since the internet got a hold of that story. And it was all about, I'm spraining my MCL. And I've seen that acronym broken down since then. It's like MCL is like my colon's loose and stuff like that. But everyone in the room was like shaking their head as Paul Pierce was explaining that like bullshit.
No one was buying it.
Yeah, which is crazy because that's this Celtics camaraderie, and yet everyone's like, just admit it, dude. Like you shat your pants, which is hilarious. Paul Pierce is like my favorite player of all time. So
we've all been there, Paul. Come on,
absolutely.
I also loved when they were like when would you guys? Tatum asked, how many times have you guys fought? Which I think was also like okay, because we fought, like, you got the Marcus Smart throwing the chair after the bubble game. Like, I'm sure they have had a bunch. And they're talking about when they're playing the Spurs and Paul Pierce is like, we're trapping Ginobili and and then Matt Bonner has like 20 points in the first half and I'm walking back down the tunnel and it's like, who hell has Bonner? And KG's like, you know damn well who has Bonner. We're trapping Ginobili because you can't guard him on your own. And then we leave, and then we don't trap the second half because we're not helping you anymore. And then Ginobili goes off, and we lose. God, and it's just watching those two go back and forth, like talking shit. Like it just doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's an interview, but honestly, like usage rate wise, it's 90% Pierce and KG, which is hilarious.
Good.
Yeah. All right. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're not already, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast app you prefer. Subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. All of our socials are linked in the show notes below. And we're constantly pumping out our content on to enhance your Celtics, your daily and weekly Celtics experience. We will be back on Sunday night live here on YouTube. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.